Welcome back to the Real Science of Sport podcast. This is our Tokyo 2025 special. We are 3 or 4 days in. We've lost track, but we're doing our best to bring you our reflections and insights from the action at the Tokyo World Championships. I can assure you that today we have not missed a world record.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure. I checked the results twice before we came on. Don't want to get caught like that again. So today, yesterday was a day full of incredibly close finishes and massive upsets. Today, the polar opposite. Today was a day where the pre-race favourites confirmed their status as favourites, and in particular, Faith Kipyegon confirmed her status as the greatest of all time in the middle distances by winning the 1500 metres. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the men's high hurdles, and then we're going to talk, I think some of the interesting stories actually of today came from the qualifiers. There were some pretty good performances and some pretty interesting results from there that we will dissect. And then we look forward to tomorrow's action as well, which features that men's 1500. But we start with a women's 1500 where Kipyegon delivered the perfect race. We spoke yesterday, Gareth, about what the risks to her were and what she would need to do to mitigate those risks, and she absolutely nailed it. You could not computer program a performance as good as what Kipyegon delivered today.
Mm-hmm. The note I made was that this is now simply running royalty, and it was a procession from start to finish. And when I checked the splits, she led in every single split. She just took the race by the scruff of the neck. She didn't let anybody come anywhere near her. She just put it out there and said, if you want to come past me, you're going to have to work damn hard to do it. And I'm not going to let you. And you know you can't beat me. And I'm just going to just keep my foot on your throats all the way around. Is there such a thing as an alpha female, like an alpha male?
Yeah, I mean, that's what this is.
And running, she is it.
And the whole field, like, just let her do it, because I don't think anyone had the ability not to stop it from happening. It was just, as we say, a textbook. We've got the splits up on screen, those of you watching it, but I'll give you what I think were the highlights, because you were looking for it in the moment. 64 through the first 400, which is bang on 4-minute pace. That's the tempo. Second 400, 63. So that's now a 357-ish 1500 tempo. Third 400 was done in 61. So now she's cranking it up to 348. There's no other woman in the world who can run that pace. That's her world record pace. And then the final 400, so we go back to the 1100 to the finish line, is done in just under 60 seconds. Again, no other woman in the world can do it. So she put every one of those rivals in a situation where they had no possible response to it. They can't finish as fast. They can't run as fast through the last 800. It was the absolute best way to go about doing it. No risk to her because she's so comfortable. She's running 5 or 6 seconds tempo slower than her PB. Everyone else is just being stretched progressively by ramping up of the pace, and it was just the perfect execution. And in the end, she wins really comfortably. The margin at the finish is 2.5 seconds to a surprise silver. We'll get to her, and then Jess Hull, who I think is an interesting story, because we said before the race, didn't we, that she hasn't looked great. She tanked horrendously in Zurich in the final 100 meters. Spoke about going away, being fresher for Worlds. It hasn't quite looked like the Jess Hull from Paris. And I'll tell you, with 80 meters to go, it looked like she was going to get run out of the medals. She dug deep and she hung on to bronze, which is a great result for her. But the story was at the front. Kipyegon, the perfect race. Yesterday we spoke about Hocker and how when you put yourself in the front, there's a couple of risks that'll come your way. Kipyegon just absolutely denies everyone the chance by just getting faster and faster and faster, to the point that everyone just got blown off.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. We have said it about so many races this week. You just don't give anybody else a chance. You can't get tripped up. You can't get boxed in. You won't have anybody coming past you if you just keeping that pace on. She said, she basically said to them, if you want to try and pass me, you can, but I know you can't. And importantly, they knew they couldn't. That was a field of runners who knew they were beaten from the very first step on the track, I think.
Yeah, I think everyone's racing for second. And that makes Hull's performances, you got to give her credit, because she's gutsy. She tried to go, it was so obvious that Kipyegon was cranking it faster and faster. You saw in those splits. You can look at them every 100 meters. Hull tried with 300 to go. She was the only athlete to go with Kipyegon down the back straight. And I think she paid a little. I reckon we were talking about someone else the other day who may have sacrificed one medal in pursuit of another. I think Hull probably could have come away from this with silver if she'd raced the other Kenyans as opposed to Kipyegon. But hey, you got to nothing ventured, nothing gained, I suppose. But the only point I wanted to make about Kipyegon is tactics are complex, but when you're 2 or 3 seconds faster than the next best person in the race, tactics do become a little bit easier. It's not nearly as easy for a Kerr or a Laros or Chariot to pull off what Kipyegon did because they're just not that superior.
But from Hull's point of view, it made sense to follow Kipyegon as much as she could, because even if you're only going to get silver doing that, it's still going to be stretching everybody else behind you. Why get into a tactical battle if you think you're the second best runner in the race?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Hull,
And
it
worked in Paris, right? So you got to try it again.
It looks to me almost like she's running scared. She looks almost anxious. Her facial expressions. Is that normal for Hull?
She's always looked like that. She's always looked.
She looks terrified.
Some people just, yeah. You know, else looks like that. I was thinking it today. Wanyoni in the 800s. He's the same. Gives great photographic, cinematic value from the front.
Indeed. Obviously, it's just the way she runs then. It's not really affecting her, because it's nice to see You always think a relaxed athlete looks as if they're in control, don't you? And she never looks like she's in control. She always looks like she's on the teetering on the edge of disaster.
Yeah.
So we should mention the other two athletes who made the race, because there was the two Kenyans, and we came so close to a Kenyan 1, 2, 3 after you said yesterday that they haven't had the best of tournament so far. So silver went to Dorcas Ewoy, and she does that with the blue. She ran a personal best of 3:54.92, and I had a look at her personal best before today, and it was 4:02.90. So she's never even broken 4 minutes before. So this is like an 8-second PB. So normally we'd be saying, look, there's something wrong here. Nobody can just go from 4:02 to 3:54. So is there something up? But I think she just got towed. I think she got towed around the track by Kipyegon in the end.
Yeah, well, that's what this race was. It was a Diamond League race for everyone in it except Kipyegon. So Ewoy was the main beneficiary of that today.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mean, she's obviously a pedigreed athlete. You don't qualify for the Kenyan team if you don't have some abilities in that event. And so the fact that she hasn't produced a really fast time presumably means she hasn't had the exposure to the opportunities to produce those fast times. But I also hear you in every circumstance when an athlete makes an enormous leap forward in performance, you question it. It's inevitable, such a sport.
Mm-hmm. So as we say, I mean, everything happened on the back straight, really. It was not the back straight, sorry, the final straight, where Ewoy overtook Hull. As you said earlier on, Hull looked like, again, she was treading water, and I thought she was out of it. I thought it was a Kenyan 1, 2, 3, but she did hold on to beat the third Kenyan, Nelly Chepchir, who also ran a personal best.
Yeah. I saw 11 women broke 4 minutes, which is maybe it was 10 or 11. You may have the final results there, but that's pretty deep. But just for context,
11.
Jess Hull's last 100 meters, 16:68. Ewoy, who passed her in that 100, 15:66. That's a second swing in the final 100 meters between those two. And that was where Hull really looked like she was going to get caught by both Kenyans, and she survived the attack of the eventual fourth place at Chepchirchir. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were all motoring. Yeah, you were right. 11 under 4 minutes, and another 2 were under 4:01. And we had 4 personal bests and 2 seasons bests. So, yeah, Kipyegon was the greatest pacemaker they're ever going to get in their lives, I reckon.
Yeah, although, again, slow start, you just build it and build it and build it. And I think there'll be some disappointed athletes behind. Hiltz, for instance, would have been thinking she's in a shot with a medal. Didn't get close in the end, because when you ramp the pace up like that, it's just so attritional. And watching it, I'm thinking, I'm really looking forward to that women's 5,000, but that strategy is exactly what Kipyegon needs to do. I think it's the only way to beat Chebet. She's got to run the last 800 of that 5,000 in 1:58, 1:59, like she did today. And if she can do the last 1,200 in under 3 minutes, then I think she's got a chance. Speaking of, did you see Chebet like in tears at the finish line from the stands? That was really interesting.
Indeed.
I
They
did a
obviously are
double
great
take. I was like,
friends as well.
is that Chebet?
It was indeed. So it's going to be a great race. But has Chebet got the better kick? I know we shouldn't be previewing this, but
no, but that's the thing. I think, and we spoke about it in the context of that 15, the 10,000, is if you let her race you over 200 meters and you haven't really damaged her, she will beat everyone. There's never been a kick over 200 like that. But I don't know if it's been tested over that length and at that speed. I think Tsegay tried it, and I think it was, broadly speaking, the right thing to do. But I reckon in a slow race through 4,600, Chebet beats Kipyegon. But in a wound up race, and that's the strategy she wants to go. I think she's got to go 62, 61, 59 for the last 3 laps, and she might just have a chance. Kipyegon, to me, looks better than she did in Paris. Chebet might also be a little bit better, but I expect that to me is the highlight of the women's program at these Worlds. I think we said that before, and having seen today, I'm looking forward to it even more.
What are you doing Saturday afternoon? You've got the women's 5K followed by the men's 800.
Yeah, that's going to be, and I got no more work commitments for a few days, so I'm ecstatic.
There we go. Okay, we'll move on then to the other track final of the day, which was the men's 110-meter hurdles, which was won comfortably, as much as you can comfortably win a hurdles race, I think, by Cordell Tinch, who was the only man to go sub 13. He actually ran 12:99. Orlando Bennett ran a PB for silver, and Mason equaled his PB for bronze, and they're both Jamaican. There's not really a huge amount to say about it. It was pretty much open and shut case, as they say in court circles. Holloway failed to make the final, and unfortunately the Japanese hope, Murutake, he finished 5th. I was hoping for a little sneaky medal for Japan there. So there wasn't a huge amount to say about that. What did you make of Tinch's performance?
It was, as far as these events go, routine. He's broken. We said yesterday had 5 of the top 10 times in the world this year, 3 of the top 4, 3 sub 13s, and this was number 4, and no one else got. I mean, up to hurdle 5 or 6. It looks like maybe there's enough pressure but he just moved clear. It looked like a well-controlled, well-executed 9.5 out of 10 race, and no one else is good enough to beat that at the moment. So it was he delivered exactly as it was expected, I think.
Again, it was such a procession that the Swiss runner in lane 8 didn't even bother trying. He just gave up before the first hurdle.
That's not your words. That's sort of his, right? Like that's just so we
know. That's his words. This is really bizarre. So if you watch the race, the Swiss runner in lane 8, he doesn't even clear the first hurdle. In fact, he doesn't even attempt the first hurdle. And they assumed that he'd injured himself coming off the line, which can happen. So I looked into it. His name's Jason Joseph. And he spoke to the press afterwards, and he says it's very surreal. You train all year, the season is solid, and you're fit. The semi-final is good, the warm-up is good, and then something like this, it's heavy. I don't even know why I didn't clear the first hurdle or what the problem was. He then went on to say, it looks like I had the perfect distance to the hurdle. I should have just gone for it. I think I lack experience at the start. Once I have a really good start, I have the feeling that something is wrong. He basically got stage fright and froze and just couldn't force himself over the hurdle. It's incredible. If you watch it, you can actually see it. He's not injured. He just stops.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of pressure, anxiety, maybe. I don't know enough about the technical elements of approaching that first hurdle, but I can imagine if you look in the wrong place and suddenly you have a hurdle to clear, you'd hesitate. But I've never heard anyone say it the way that he said it there in that interview. It's weird to say that I need experience at the start with the start. It's like by the time you get to the World Championship final, you've been doing it. You've run in hundreds of races, so I think it's more just I need experience on the stage in this occasion.
I really feel for him now, but at least he's been honest about it. So we had this obviously the Swiss won the women's hurdles. And had this happen to him in the men's. So
I saw him at the start, and I'll be honest, never heard of him in the Diamond Leagues, never really seen him. And I was preparing jokes about how Swiss athletes are really good at jumping things, like Americans are good at spinning and throwing things, because that would have been a story for us in Switzerland to have two hurdles champions. But yeah, the way it turned out was the furthest from that.
Hmm. So there are a few field events. I think something that Kevin mentioned actually in discourse. It seems very well timed pace-wise, this entire tournament. I keep calling it a tournament. It's a championships.
Hmm.
Um, it does seem very well. There's always something happening, but there's never too much. It does feel like the pace of it is just about right.
Yeah,
I think.
I haven't been watching it live the way that I would have liked to. Today I was kind of in and out, dipping in, fast forward, jump ahead, find an event to watch. But I can see that, and it's when you look at the program, you say, oh, two finals on the night, a couple of heats, track finals, but I think it works. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's another example of how field
So
events do add to the package.
yeah, the field events in this case were the men's high jump, and New Zealand have bagged another gold medal because New Zealand only do golds. As we predicted, Hamish Kerr he continued the New Zealand great week with a win in the high jump. San Hyok Woo of South Korea takes silver, and Jan Stefela of the Czech Republic takes bronze. And then we got another prediction right over in the men's hammer with Katzenberg.
Mm.
He's North American and of course good at spinning around, so he won the men's hammer.
Yeah, so
And
that's again, we
I've
said favourites delivered today. Day of upsets yesterday, day of safe bets today.
Indeed, I was just going to read out the other hammer winners. Medals. Merlin Hummel got silver with a personal best from Germany, and Bent Halas got bronze from Hungary, just to get them in there. So, in other action today, we had some qualifying going on. And speaking of qualifying, actually, Gout is going to be starting his campaign tomorrow in the 200 meters with the heats, and his first initial heat doesn't look too tricky. And I think he said that
Mm.
he's aiming for a semi-final place, which I think is probably wise, no?
Yeah, I think it's good they manage the expectations around him because, I mean, even in our previous show, is he going to win a medal? And even in my work meeting now, these are folks who are not really athletics followers, but they all know Gout's running. When does he start? When can I see him? It's a lot to put on a teenager. So I'm glad to
Mm.
hear that they're trying to at least manage it. I'm sure he wants to make the final, but let's go one race at a time. Remember, Sean told us that the Australian media contingent is expected to be 18. Normally, it would be 3. So that's an indication of the expectation on the guy, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do.
I looked down the start lists for the personal bests, and so many of the guys there have run sub 20 seconds, and of course he hasn't even done that yet. So he is definitely up against it, and perhaps the semi-final will be a victory for him.
Yeah, in the same
So
way,
look,
actually, and in the 800s today, we saw the other teen phenom, Cooper Lutkenhaus, came 7th in his 800-meter heat and was never really in it. And I think that's realistic. I'm sure Americans were disappointed, because he ran that 142 earlier this year. But, you're 16, 17 years old. You're not going to just show up on an adult world stage and stamp something on them, I think.
it, it's great experience. It's only 2 years. He'll be 18, I think, the next time it comes around.
Mm.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the men's 800, did you see Ball didn't go through?
Yeah, he was the biggest
And
name to not make it, right? Mm.
yeah, there wasn't too many shocks. Arop just about snuck in,
Yeah, he
just.
didn't look good at all to
So,
me. So he's in a
no.
tough. I saw the lineups for the semis. He's in the same one as Wenyonyi and remind me, the
Sajati?
the Brit Sajati from the Olympics third, and the Brit who got a medal in the Budapest World Championships. So that's by far the most difficult of the semis. So he'll need some improvement there.
The other qualifying I was watching today was the women's 400 meters. And I'm telling you now, Syndey McLaughlin Levrone, she is going to take that world record in the 400 meters at some point. And the rest of the world's onto it now because I saw somebody else talking about it in The Guardian. So I
Yeah, I
think
mean
Sean's been catching wind of our conversations.
you asked me that, and I think I said maybe in future, but not right away. But like it's yeah to run because that was a half a second PB for her.
She ran 48:30 and it looked like a jog, and that's the fastest in the world this year. Just so easy.
Yeah, so she breaks the US record, 7th all time, I think, fastest semi-final in a long, long time. First time, I think the fastest previous semi win was like a 49 something. So she's playing in the 48 territories, not even in the final, cruising the last 50, as you say. So it's difficult to see how she gets beaten because none of the other big contenders. We spoke about Paulinho, who's got a 48-1. So if Paulinho runs at her best, she's near McLaughlin Levrone with 60 to go. But you don't know how much she's got in hand, and it wouldn't surprise me to see 47 something in the final. I don't see the world record going in this particular final because that's another 0.7. She'd be 1.2 seconds better in one competition than her lifetime best. That's too much to ask, but I agree with you. Having seen that, if she stays focused on this event, it's hard to see that world record surviving all the way to Los Angeles.
But she looked so good today running 48:30. And like I say, okay, I said it was a jog. It clearly wasn't a jog. But she was easing off so much. Surely she can find another second and a half by really going for it. Or am I just naive in the way this works?
No, I think sometimes you can judge how much capacity someone's got by the way they look. But I'd say the better comparison is when she breaks the world record in the 400 hurdles, which she's done every major final she's competed in, she looks also very easy. I just think when she's on form, she just looks comfortable. There are some people who are like that, and it's a tricky one trying to guess how much capacity someone's got based on the degree to which they're relaxed.
Yeah.
But you have to think that in a 400-meter race where she's so far clear that there's no one even in her peripheral vision with 80 to go, what's the incentive to push? She's got 0.2 to 0.3 seconds in the final 100 just from that alone. So that's why I would say 47.9 wins the final. And Paulinho is not running that based on what we saw today.
Well, she only just qualified. She qualified by 500ths of a second. Though in the end she would have got through as the fastest qualifier. She eased up way too early.
Yes.
Going back to what you were just saying, I was thinking if we stuck Jess Hull's face or facial expressions on Sydney, it would probably be a different story because it would look like she was like really working hard. I suppose we just take it like sort of how people look is not a great indicator.
Yeah, I remember.
Another thing I've learned.
I remember, and I mean, it had other connotations, and it was used to argue different things. But Caster Semenya never looked like trying either. And then I remember Semenya once came fourth or third in the 1500, and still didn't look like there was any effort being put into it. But why would you not put any effort and you're being beaten by 15 meters by Kipyegon and Mir? So I didn't. So then I was like, okay, maybe we need to be careful about judging where people are relative to their ceiling based on how they look.
Okay. So we have tomorrow women's steeplechase.
The other just to go back to qualifying, the men's 400 semis were really interesting, I thought, because the US favorite Patterson was the slowest guy into the final. He wasn't the slowest guy. He was the fourth fastest guy into the final, but only qualified by virtue of being the second time qualifier because he came fourth in his heat.
All right. I didn't. To be honest, I've got to admit, I didn't really pay much attention to the men's 400 qualifiers.
Yeah, it was one of the
few things the least interesting thing going on today for me.
And the most interesting thing there is Botswana got 3. And the fastest guy ran a 43 something to win his semi-final in Patterson's heat. That's why Patterson's time would have been fast enough to win the other 2 heats, but he came fourth in his race behind the guy. I mean, yeah, Botswana, that 4x400 relay, the US dominance there that's going to be a hell of a race between them and Botswana because they've got major depth and quality, Botswana. So I'm looking forward to that based on what I saw. But that men's 400 final is so open, I could not tell you who's going to win that.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you something. This is your third backdrop of the week, but it's your worst internet connection. So if I'm talking over you, I do apologize.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I'm now with family, and my sister and her husband live here, and the artwork over my shoulder is the niece's 4-year-old school project or something. So I apologize if it's a bit shaky. I've noticed you've frozen a few times, but we'll get through.
Yep. So we've only got the previews of tomorrow to look at anyway. It's the women's steeplechase, which again I think the chaos will be in full effect. because we have 3 of the 4 fastest women of all time racing tomorrow. In fact, we've got the 3 medalists from the last Olympics. We've got Bahrain's Winfred Yavi, the gold, Uganda's silver medalist Peruth Chemutai, and Kenya's bronze Faith Cheretich, all racing. So I'm wondering, actually, because there's a possibility they could spur each other to a world record pace. Because Yavi actually has the world lead this year with 8:45, which is less than a second off the world record. So I wonder if we could see another world record tomorrow, and hopefully a great battle between these 3.
Yeah, given the conditions and the jeopardy of trying to go out and set it up to run world record pace, knowing that you've got rivals who are close to you. No, it's not a Kipyegon situation where Yavi is 7 seconds faster than the next best athlete. So I'd be surprised if anyone's got the courage to try and set it up like that, knowing that there are two rivals who could just sit on them and outkick them. So more likely, I reckon, this goes the way that the men's race went.
Which was Beamish.
Yeah, and although I can't see a Beamish-like winner other than these 3, but I think it's going to be slow for the first K, and then they'll probably try and take it up in the second and third kilometers. But I'd be surprised if anyone wants to try and risk it in relatively hot conditions, knowing that it's as competitive as it probably will be. But I think Yavi is the best of the 3.
So the real big event of tomorrow is the men's 1500 meters, obviously, and it will be last man standing, I think, after the heats and the semis, where we've lost quite a few of the favourites. And to my mind, it's going to come down pretty much to Josh Kervish's Niels Laros, and I know Laros has been your favourite for quite a while now. Has anything happened to change your mind?
A little bit. I've looked. I didn't think he looked that good in the heats and the semis, and I don't know whether there's a expectation now that's changing the way that I evaluate the way he looks, or whether he's running slightly differently. But in the semi-final, he was in the same heat as Kerr. I've got that right, yeah? And no, he wasn't. He was in the other heat. No, hang on. Was he in the same heat as Kerr? He was, because he beat Kerr on the line. And he just looks a little bit more anxious than I remember him in the Diamond Leagues. And if you go back and you look at the way that he won those Diamond League races, he's pretty comfortable in a paced race to sit in 4th, 5th place, to make the first of his moves down the back straight. There's space because the pace is so fast, and then he wants to do all his work in the last 150, 120 meters. I think in Tokyo so far, he's looked a little bit more anxious, and I think maybe he knows that when the pace is not fast, there's a high risk that if you put yourself in 4th or 5th, you get swamped with 400 to go. Suddenly you're 8th or 9th. Now you've got a lot of work to do with 300 meters left. And in one sense, it's good that he's aware of that, but I don't know. He just looks like he's running with a little bit more pressure and a little bit more tension, and he's not as snappy looking as he did there. And I don't know whether I'm imagining that or not. So I'd still say he's probably the favorite, but it's like 51-49 Kerr between him and Kerr. And you know who else I think looks really good in a very unassumingly impressive way is Whiteman.
Yep. How about Coet?
The American coach. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, it depends on how the race develops and who does what in it. You know, there's no Ingebrigtsen. So the last 2 major 1500 championships we've seen have been taken out fairly aggressively by Ingebrigtsen, and that's made the race for many other athletes a lot simpler. Before Ingebrigtsen, the person who would do that is Chariot. Now, he is in that final, the Kenyan Chariot. Is he going to be the guy who does that job of sitting it up in the front? I doubt it. But he'll be prominent in the first 3 or 4. In that semi-final we mentioned with Kerr and Laros, he was the one who tried to go past Kerr with about 420 to go just before the bell, and Kerr responded to him and kept him behind. So I would imagine he's going to be a little bit aggressive. He was aggressive in Paris. Remember, he was the guy who closed Ingebrigtsen down when Ingebrigtsen went a little bit too aggressively, and he sort of pulled the rest of the field up. He did everyone else a favor. But it's so interesting because I think we saw in the semi, Kerr will, if no one else takes it up, Kerr will go to the front. But Kerr doesn't want to do what Kipyegon did today. Kipyegon went to the front and ran pretty close to world record tempo for the last 800 meters. Kerr doesn't want that because he's trusting his kick in this race. I think it's his best chance. But I think he'll want to go to the front to stay out of trouble and to minimize the likelihood of getting boxed in and so on. So Kerr goes to the front, 58 through the first lap, 58 through the second lap, and then the third lap will get faster because at that pace, that's 3:37. Everyone in this race can run 3:32s, right? So that's not going to hurt anyone. But Kerr will want to control that inside, and he'll go faster and faster and faster, and he'll hit. I think he wants to run this race like he did the semi-final, but with a bigger last 200. Laros is, for me, the most interesting tactically because I think he's better off sitting off and going fourth or fifth, but I don't think he wants to. And if I was Kerr, I would exploit that, and I would try and keep him there, let other guys, I'd maybe even try and slow it up with 450 to go, and let other athletes come past Laros and see if he can get his own rival boxed in. It's going to be a really interesting tactical race, I think.
Mm-hmm. As well, I was going to actually ask you, can anybody in this field do a Faith Kipyegon? But as you say, nobody wants to. Not that they couldn't.
No, I don't think anyone can because on paper, like the best guy here is only a second faster than the next five. You could put the top 4 or 5 in this race within a second of one another. So to do what Kipyegon did today, you've got to be considerably better than everyone else, and no one in this race is. So for me, it boils down to Kerr controlling it from the front, but not fast, and whether Laros can manage the congestion behind and not get stuck. But as I say, like if Hocker was a dark horse in Paris, I think Whiteman's the dark horse because no one's really going to pay him much attention, and I think he is tactically smart. He's looked, as I say, sharp to me, and I reckon the medals go to those 3. And I'll still stick with Laros because I was so confident before, but I think it's going to be a little bit closer than I thought it would be. What do you reckon?
Well, I'm taking Kerr and Koech. That's why I mentioned him. I've just got a feeling Koech, there's something about him. I think with Hocker out, he's the only American in the field. He's going to be inspired.
What about some of the sort of lesser known guys? There's a South African in the race, one of our few finalists. There's a couple of Moroccans, a Spanish athlete with quite a fast finish. Ben, I think, is his surname. If it's slow, he's in with a chance.
To get through those heats and semis, everybody here is quality. It could be another one of those races. Look, we've been trying to make predictions all championship, and only today have we seen any favourites win at all. So
that's true. I'm just so looking forward to how they run it because, as I say, I think Laros is tactically easier to predict. Kerr, for me, is the most interesting because he's got speed at the end, and he'll back that. But I think he's also shown the desire and the mentality to want to control it from the front. But he wants to be on the front, but not fast. And that means that people will be backing up behind him. And I see, it wouldn't surprise me if you see another faller in this race. I hope it's not someone significant and at the front and it changes the result. But I could see like a faller because I think it's going to be congested. Nothing at all like the women's race.
Mm-hmm. It could be the German.
You never know. Did you see that in his initial interview after that semi-final, he said it made no difference. He'd have come 7th or 8th anyway.
Yeah, he did indeed. So he's got himself into the final. I know there's been a little bit of debate about whether or not that Hocker should have got kicked out, but I still stick with that he should have.
Yeah, I think there's debate only because people are patriotic and partisan. But to me, it was clear. And then afterwards, the German guy, Farkin, said, yeah, actually, I was impeded. It was unfair, and I definitely slowed down because of it. I think it's... we called it before the championships that it was the race we were most looking forward to. And sadly, we've lost more than half of the biggest names we were looking forward to seeing in this race. But I still think it's going to be tactically intriguing and very competitive.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
I think we've just about survived.
Yeah, we've survived some Wi-Fi dramas. Those of you who watch this on YouTube, you'll see a couple of sharp cuts because we'd lost a video feed once or twice. As for the rest, If you've got thoughts, predictions to make before or after the races, please pop on Discourse. If you're not a member of Discourse, you can become one by clicking on the link in the show notes. That takes you to Patreon, and then you make a monthly pledge there, and that gets you access to the VIP community where people are sharing all kinds of insights and thoughts. There's been some crazy, interesting statistics from hammer throw to split time, all sorts of things, and you can get involved in that conversation. We will definitely see you again tomorrow because it's going to be, I think, one of the most interesting days of these championships. Can't wait to discuss how that 1500 unfolds. So please do join us again. For now, though, it is goodbye.